Aloha and welcome to this module on application design, which in which we are going to focus on the Meteor web application framework. This is really exciting to me because Meteor provides a really compelling and provocative and modern approach to client-server web-based application design. Very, very different from what you might be used to if you've done web application with a more conventional architecture like Spring or Ruby on Rails or one of those. Meteor is really different. And in some ways it might represent the future of client-server application design. And so I think it's really cool to be able to introduce it to you in this class. Despite the fact that it's very modern, one of the things that people really like about it is it's relatively simple to get started with it. So it is a little, you have to wrap your brain around some concepts, but the actual amount of code you have to write and the amount of stuff that gets taken care of you by the framework itself is really quite cool. That said, Meteor, I think, in my experience, the biggest downside with Meteor right now is that it is evolving very quickly. And in fact, I've had to rewrite all of this module from 9 months ago because 9 months ago we were using Meteor 1.1 and now it's up to Meteor 1.4 and it's just really different. And so for example, I have a screencast here called Meteor for Newbies Application Structure, and I talk about that because there are at least 3 different ways that people structure applications for Meteor that you're going to see when you look at example code, and they're very different, and it's confusing to see applications structured in such different ways if you don't understand why that would be and how it can be. So that's what I'm trying to do in this introduction, partially to actually get you used to using Meteor, but also to kind of understand that it's in flux and things are changing and new features are being added and new ways of doing things are being incorporated. And so I'm gonna teach you the modern way to develop Meteor apps, and by modern I mean as of like 4 months ago, what the modern way is. But at the same time, as you go through tutorials and so forth, you're going to see other ways of doing it. They're still valid. They're just not quite as scalable and kind of elegant or not elegant, robust in a software engineering perspective. And of course, this is a class on software engineering, so we got to do the software engineering thing. Now, having said all that, what are we going to do? I have a little screencast you can watch that talks about web application frameworks in general, so you can kind of see how Meteor fits in. There's a very nice screencast, 20 minutes long, by one of the Meteor folks. It's a little bit old, but still everything in it is really good, and it kind of gives you a sense for what's going on. You can see this application structure screencast to kind of help you orient you as you start to look at code. And then there's this excerpt. If you find at some point that you're really confused by MongoDB as a backend database, there's a Meteor tutorial with a very nice little excerpt that explains Mongo, and you can take a look at that. The experiential learning this week requires almost very little of independent thinking about the code. I'm basically this week just having you go through 2 tutorials essentially, and then in the in-class exercise we'll have you do some more tutorial work to understand the basic concepts of Meteor, its publications, subscriptions, isomorphic JavaScript, and the implication templates and so forth. And so hopefully by the time you've worked through all these different tutorials, kind of following along, you'll start to have the gut sense for how things fit. At least that's what I'm hoping for this week. Next week we'll get into a little bit more advanced stuff. I expect it's going to take a few weeks for you to start to feel comfortable with Meteor. I know that there'll be a lot of questions you'll still have about the framework at the end of this week, but you got to start somewhere. And hopefully a bunch of those questions will be answered by the end of this week, and then we'll clear up the rest of them in the weeks after this one. So have fun. It's really cool. very bizarre in certain ways, but I think your brain will be expanded by this experience.